What's going on, everybody? It's Kimberly Flowers, remote producer and founder of remoteproducerlive.com. Today's show is sponsored by Restream, and today I'm really excited about today's episode because we're going to be talking all about what you need in the way of equipment to get started producing live streams for your clients. Now, this is kind of a complex conversation, primarily because what you need is directly based on what you're trying to accomplish with your live stream. So we're going to get into all of that and what that means and break down some basics around getting started with, producing live streams for your clients. But in the meantime, I want you, wherever you are watching us from, make sure in the comment section that you say hello, tell us where you're watching us from, and tell us whether or not you are a remote producer or you're looking to maybe learn about how to produce your own show, okay? So make sure that you guys can hear me. I'm going to be checking in the comments area every now and then for you guys' comments and questions and things like that. So we have some really, really juicy conversations for you today. I'm going to go into the chat and see where you guys are. Okay. So let's talk equipment. Now, when it comes to producing a live stream for a client, there's a couple of prereq things that I really want you to understand and know, okay? So one of the really cool things about hiring a remote producer to do your online TV show or your virtual event for you is that you don't have to have all of the equipment necessary to create something that's really high level, because your host or the production company has the power in their system, right? So what that means for you as a remote producer is that you need to understand that your computer or your, central production center is going to be the power, the horsepower behind producing for the client. So you're kind of putting yourself, taking the burden off of them to have to buy all of this equipment, expensive equipment to kind of get this high level look. And you're just kind of putting it on yourself and saying, hey, we can take care of all of this for you. We can add the guests. We can add the broadcast graphics. We can add all of these things for you. And we'll switch, from different perspectives or camera angles while you go live so that you can focus on being your amazing self, right? So that's the beauty of remote producing or hiring a remote producer or being a remote production company, is that we're able to take the burden off the client to have to get all of this expensive stuff. They can just plug into your system and now they're ready to go, right? And so with that being said, you have to know that, your system is going to you're going to have to invest something into your system. Okay. So we're going to be talking about what those investments look like as we get through today's show. But I also want you to know before we get started that when it comes to the equipment, now it's very important that you understand that there is a difference between understanding the technique for doing something and understanding the technology, right? So the technology is primarily like the hardware and like what it is that you're going to need. Now, the thing about technology, the reason why I don't want you to focus so much on the technology is because whatever I recommend to you today in the way of like a camera or microphone or whatever might be outdated by tomorrow, because technology is ever increasing. It's moving really, really quickly. And so, those things are bound to change. So what you want to focus on learning in today's conversation is to understand the technique for creating a workflow that will allow you to produce high level content for your client. Okay. So that's really, really important. I want to make sure that we kind of discuss those things, because I don't focus too much on the technology as it pertains to, do this camera or this microphone or whatever. I'm just showing you, some of the things that you need to have in place, and here's some things to look for when choosing the equipment that you really want to use, depending on what it is that you're trying to accomplish, right? So we talked about how your broadcast is really going to, the type of equipment that you need is really going to be dependent on what it is that you're trying to do for the client. So while some broadcasts, you may be doing just like a regular talk show based conversation where it's just your client and maybe one other person, maybe there's not like a whole lot of broadcast graphics that need to be included. Maybe you're just doing static graphics or something like that. Your system is going to need to be you're going to need a lot less for your system than something a lot more advanced or complex, where you have, four or more live guests on the show. You have broadcast graphics and trend, motion graphic animations and all of these different things, included into the broadcast. So those are going to require different levels of like production equipment and things that you're going to need to get that started. And not only that, guys, like let's just say you're a remote production company that focuses in on doing more conference style things. You're going to need different things than someone who's maybe focusing on cooking shows, right? So it really depends. So as we go through today's conversation, I want you to be aware that the equipment is going to vary depending on the need that you have. So today is really more of a focus on the fundamentals of things that you definitely are going to need no matter what production you are looking to accomplish. And so after today, we're going to give you some like insider information. Guys, you can download this checklist that I'm about to give you, and I'll show you how to do that at the end of the broadcast. So stay tuned. Don't miss the end of the broadcast because I'm going to gift you guys this download for free. Okay? So as we go through today's conversation, before we do that, I just want to say thank you, Maria, for joining. Grizzly Bear, awesome. I'm glad you guys are out there. If you're out there and you have a question, we're going through today's content, it's going to be really important that you use that little chat area to message me so that way I can answer some questions real time. How fun is that, right? Okay, so let's kind of get into this. One of the things that, as we talk about, the types of things that you're going to need, one of the first things that you're going to need is going to be a live stream ready computer. You're going to need a live stream ready computer. Now, let's talk about what is a live stream ready computer and how is it different than just having any kind of computer. Now, as I told you guys before, the focus of remote producing for other clients is that you're taking on the burden of all the technology and understanding the technique for how to put on a high level TV ready show. So within that process, you're going to need a computer that can keep up. So when you're thinking about a computer, people get really lost in the conversation around, should I be using a PC or should I be using a Mac, or what are some of the things that, that I need to look for in the way of a computer. So I'm going to show you those things. Okay. So whether you're using a Mac or a PC, just know that you can always accomplish what you need to on either one of those devices. Obviously, some things are going to be easier when you're using a PC computer versus an Apple computer. And then some things are going to be easier using an Apple computer versus a PC. So there's no wrong answer. There's no wrong answer when it comes to what you're using in the way of devices for your live stream. Some of the things that you do need to be thinking about when choosing a computer for producing remote broadcasts for your clients is to think through the processing power. This is one of three things that I want you to kind of think about, right? One is the processing power. The processing power just kind of essentially tells you how much you can do and how fast you can do it on the computer, right? So for live stream, one of the most popular, there's two kind of popular processors used in both Mac and a PC computer, and those are Intel processor and an AMD processor. Okay, so these are, I'm trying not to get too technical with you, but I want you to just know, kind of have these things like in your head, right? So when you're thinking about the processing power, Intel kind of has 90% of the market right now when it comes to, the processing power for live stream. And they are more compatible overall for video encoder software. Now, when we get into video encoder software, that's kind of like OBS or like Restream or like, just different, more software actually, operation workspaces that you can use to add on graphics, to add on all of these different things that you're going to need for your clients. Okay. And we'll talk about those within Restream, and we'll also talk about some others that you may think about using, okay? Depending on the level that you're looking to live stream at. So I try to divide this out by the level of live streams are going to be like basic live streams, which is again, maybe under 2 people that you're producing for, basic static graphics and things like that. And then pro being like up to 4 people that you're producing for, that maybe has a lot more motion graphics and transitions and that sort of thing. And then of course, over 4 people plus a processing center, maybe some different rooms that they need, like you're going to need more processing power. So you want to focus on the processing power of your CPU. And I would say, like for me, I recommend that you max out these 3 things, okay? Just depending on whatever it is you do. Some people might call it overkill, but for processing power, you just want to make sure that you have something that at least has, 3.6 gigahertz. Like you're looking at, like, you want something that is powerful, right, in the way of processing power. So think about that. The other thing I want to talk to you about is the RAM. The RAM, basically, or random access memory on your computer, has to do with how many applications you can access at one time. So another thing I want you to think about is that while you're doing live streams, you may need multiple applications open in order to accomplish the look that you're trying to create, right? So like, while you may have like your software open, you may have Restream open in one window, you may have maybe a whole nother graphic creation area open in another window. Like it just can get really complex, but you want to make sure that your computer can keep up. So when you think about RAM, there's different gigs that you can have as it pertains to how much random access memory you can have. And while some software will tell you that they can have like, 4 gigs RAM is pretty decent, like I'm going to just go out and tell you right now from my own experience, don't have less than 16 gigs of RAM in your computer if you're looking to produce for other people. Don't have less than 16. So at the basic level, you want to have 16. At the pro level, you want to have at least 32 gigs of RAM. And, at the more advanced level, bump that right up to 64, because it's just going to help you ultimately to where you don't run into these little snags of like, oh man, my computer, the CPU is running really high. I'm not able to do all of these different things that I really want to do. And I'm connecting all of these devices together and it's causing the computer to use more processing power. And now I'm stuck because my software is telling me that I'm dropping frames and doing all of this stuff, right? Like I'm trying not to go too deep, but just know we're talking about what kind of computer that you're going to need. You want to focus in on the processing power. You want to focus in on the RAM. And obviously you want to focus in on the graphics card. Okay. So some companies, computer companies, they come with different types of graphics cards. And for the most part, they're kind of basic graphics cards. So like if you can get a computer built like as a PC computer, then you can put whatever kind of graphics card you want in there, but you want it to be something that is, one, compatible with your video encoder software. You want it to be something that is useful. Okay, so somebody says they're using Ryzen. Yep, there's different types out there. And as far as like Intel versus the AMD and all that kind of stuff, but graphics card, you just want it to be something that, and gamers use this. And this is another thing. If you want to be a really great remote producer, like this is going to be like my little ninja tip to you, okay? Study gamers. Gamers live stream using heavy graphics and different things like that, and they build these little geekdom computers, right? That can hold and service. So your computer should look something like a gamer's pimped out computer, right? And that's going to be able to hold all of the things that you need for your particular live stream. So we're doing all kinds of different live streams, but if you study gamers, you'll find that the things necessary for them to be able to stream at high quality, and like they're streaming their broadcasts on YouTube and Twitch and like all of these different things at high levels, and they know what computers are necessary. Your computer needs to be somewhat very close to that. What about iPhones, iPads to live stream on? Okay, so when we start talking, we're going to get into like the most stable processes. I'm going to teach you the most stable processes. So when it comes to iPhones and things like that, when you're talking about graphic heavy broadcast. Like, it just depends on what kind of broadcast you're looking to do, again, because if you're doing a very graphic heavy broadcast, I am not going to recommend that you try to broadcast from a phone, just because it's not the most stable it's not going to be the most stable stream. So if your clients are coming in on their phone, and they may sometimes be depending on where they're coming from and all of those things. We can't control everything as it pertains to how people are coming in, where they're coming in from. But if they're your clients, then you need to make sure that they have a few things in order. And we're going to talk about those things. So just make sure. So we're talking about the computer. You want to focus in on the graphics card, the processing power, and that random access memory. So you could use a PC or a Mac. It doesn't really matter. But you want to focus in on what the components within that computer are to make sure that it's capable to do your broadcast for you. Okay. So the next thing that you're going to need is, of course, sorry about that. You're going to need a high-speed, you're going to need a high-speed internet connection, okay? You're going to need a high-speed internet connection. And again, when we're thinking about the high-speed internet connection, one of the things that you want to keep in mind, guys, is that your internet connection is hosting the entire broadcast for whomever your client is, right? And so while, yes, they need to have a high-speed internet connection as well, it doesn't necessarily have to be as strong because your stuff is carrying all the graphics. All they need is an internet speed enough for them to be able to show up on the broadcast with their webcam and their microphone, and they'll be ready to go. You, on the other hand, maybe have a lot more to host on the machine. So you want to make sure that you have a high-speed internet connection. So when we think about high-speed internet connection, you want to think about the upload speed versus the download speed. Now, most internet companies are going to be pushing the download speed because most people aren't producing live stream productions. They're really just trying to get their download speeds. They're trying to download things faster and da-da-da-da. But when you're doing a remote production, you need to be worried about the upload speed. You need to be focused on the upload speed, okay? Now, for me, this has been my particular experience, is that you really want to try to get something within the range of at least 20 upload speed if you're producing for other clients. Now, this is obviously way different if you're just trying to do your own broadcast. You may just need 10 megs up, as opposed to doing a broadcast for someone else, right? So that ideal internet connection, Milton, would be at least 20 upload speed in order for you to produce for other people, right? And that's for the basic version. If you're gonna go pro, you need like at least 40 upload speed, okay? Now the download speed, they're gonna give you like about a gig download speed, and that's great, but you really wanna focus on that upload speed. So at the pro level, you're gonna do like a 40 upload speed. And of course, the most advanced version of that right now is the 1 gig up internet connection. So that's like 1,000 upload speed, which is what we use for our broadcast, because, and some of you may think that's overkill, and it might be, right? But for what we're doing, in the way of different complex types of different broadcasts, it's important to know for us to, feel very confident in our system that we can rely on this system to not fail us or the client, right? So there you have it. You said you use 220 megs with a gigabyte equipment. Yep. What about Wi-Fi connection? Oh, this is really good. Okay, so let's actually move into that next, right? So the other thing that I want you guys to make sure that you have in place is your Ethernet connection, okay? I'm actually looking for that graphic there, but I don't see it. Okay. But I'm going to go ahead and just focus on it anyways, because it's important for you guys to have an Ethernet connection. And so this is something obviously that you need to have connected, but it's also something that you want to encourage your clients to have connected as well. So this is a conversation around stability, broadcast stability. Broadcast stability is so important because what you don't want to happen, while sometimes with Wi-Fi, let's talk about, this is one of those big questions, and your clients will constantly try to come in on their Wi-Fi, and that's okay. Like, that's just what people do. Like, it's just going to be, because they're so used to being able to utilize their Wi-Fi for different things. You honestly have to train your clients to jump on the broadcast a certain way for the highest levels of stability. So that when we start talking about prepping the client for a broadcast, we'll go into this a little bit deeper. But as it pertains to your workflow and your system, you need to make sure that you are 100% always hardwired in to your live stream production. Okay, so that's going to be super important for you, and you want to make sure that you do that, because let's talk about how Wi-Fi works versus like a hardwire works. Okay, so a hardwire gives you a very direct connection to your internet speed, upload speed and download speed that we talked about before, and without interference. Okay, so Wi-Fi works on the waves or the radio waves or whatever. Like, there could be lots of things that interfere. So while it worked one time, right? It maybe have worked one time that you were working on it and you had no problems with it, and then suddenly you're wondering why the Wi-Fi is tripping and you're not able to get the same level of quality. There's all different things that can interrupt a Wi-Fi connection, right? So that could be anything, like from your refrigerator to like your maybe other people being on the Wi-Fi that are interrupting the connection. Like, all kinds of different things can happen with a Wi-Fi connection. So because you're the troubleshooter, you're the remote producer, you're the person they're relying on to keep the stream stable, it's going to be your job to make sure that your client stays on a where they can, like a hardwired connection. Now, their guest may not come on a hardwired connection, but at least if you tell them that if the stream starts to get unstable, they'll know, like, hey, Kimberly told us, or whatever, my remote producer told me that this would happen in the event that we decided to go with the Wi-Fi. And there may be situations where all you have is the Wi-Fi. Milton, there may be situations you mentioned about, there might be situations where you can only use your phone to go live. And a lot of times you kind of have to flex as a remote producer. You're flexing with a lot of different people that are coming in from different places and different circumstances. Like, they may have just jumped off the plane and they're trying to make the broadcast and they're on their phone, and sometimes it'll work. But at least if your client understands and knows that with a Wi-Fi connection comes some basically risk of instability that is kind of out of your hands, you want to make sure that they understand that, right? So they're not like looking at the product like, oh my gosh, this isn't working, I don't know what's going on, and they're blaming you as the company when, obviously there's some things that the client has to do on their end in order to make the broadcast super successful. So I want to make sure that you definitely jump on a hard wired connection, okay? So with that, you're going to need an Ethernet cord. Now, what kind of Ethernet cord should you be using? Gosh, we're like getting into this, and the funny thing is, like, we're already at 25 minutes and I'm not honestly like even anywhere near done, okay? But maybe we'll have to do a 2-part for this, okay? But let's talk about your Ethernet cord, right, that you need. You need to at least have a Cat 5 for the speed, because each one of those Ethernet cords have different speed levels that they're bringing that stability into your computer from, right? So you want to have at least a Cat 5 cord. Those are really, really stable. So if you have a Cat 5 cord and you have it connected into your workflow system, meaning into your computer, and you are, of course, encouraging your guests to come in that same way, that's going to be the more stable production, okay? Definitely go for the best you can. Madison says, Brian says, mesh network, gigabyte, good. It's good. Okay, good. DJ, what is the best use for Wi-Fi connection to use? Okay, so Bobby, I'm going to tell you right now, like, the best is not to use Wi-Fi, right? But if you have to use Wi-Fi, then obviously you want to go with the 5G connection, because that's going to be the strongest, most stable connection that you or your client can jump on. And so you want to try that connection first, and then the 2Gs and all of those things are below that, and it's going to be like a less stable connection, okay? All right, you guys are in the house. I can see your comments, and I'm super excited that you're out there. I'm going to continue to answer your questions. Cat 7, yes, you can use a Cat 7 now. So like the higher the cat, I guess, the more stable that you're looking at. Now, just remember that your Cat 7 connections and your Cat versus your Cat 5 connections are sometimes a little different. The way that the end of it may not plug in directly to your type of device that you have, right? So if you're working on an older device that isn't compatible with a Cat 7 connection, you may need an adapter that will allow you to plug in that Ethernet cord via a Thunderbolt connection on the other end. So it'll be a Cat 5 on one side and a Thunderbolt connection on the other end to plug that in, okay? All right, so what else are you really going to need? Okay, so one of the things that you're going to need is, hold on, you guys, I'm kind of working on a different system here, so we're like, let's see. Okay, good. Here we go. The next thing that you're going to need that's super, super important is your video encoder software. Now let's talk about what is a video encoder software, okay? Your video encoder software really focuses in on allowing you to do some of those cool things. Now, first of all, okay, a video encoder software is really at its basic function, it's the software that allows your video file format to be read across all different types of devices, no matter where a person is watching you from. So your video encoder software at its basic function does that, right? So a video encoder software, Restream is one of a video encoder software that is like really great for you guys. You can start using if you're just getting started with remote producing. You can use Restream as your video encoder software. Some other video encoder software is like OBS or Wirecast or Livestream, some of those things. Lots of different options for you to use, but your video encoder software will allow your videos to be read across different devices. And for most video encoder software, also add additional things that you can add to the broadcast before it goes live to those different devices. So like broadcast graphics and, videos, like pre-recorded videos and things like that are available for you to use. So you want to make sure that you have a video encoder software. Now, oh, sorry, my nose is red. All right, so that went through. But a video encoder software. Let's see, do I need anything for Wi-Fi if I'm at a gig? Bobby, like I know that you're trying to use Wi-Fi and I'm not for sure why you want to use Wi-Fi but if you're producing, again, for other people, don't do it, bro. Don't do it. Like just because it's going to be some, but if you're using it for just your own broadcast, then definitely you can, right? But if you're doing it for other people, I'm just not going to recommend it because I'm just not like, cause I've done enough broadcasts in my life to know that the Wi-Fi is going to get intercepted at some point and you're going to run into situations where you're scrambling, trying to fix the broadcast for the client. And I told you, like, I've learned how to do this broadcasting just based on my own mess ups and experiences and things like that. So I really want to make sure that you guys cheat by learning from my mistakes. Okay. So some of the encoder softwares will allow you to add those broadcast graphics. It allows you to add, those transitions, those really cool motion graphic transitions or motion graphic backgrounds and things like that. And some of them are, just static, when I say static, that means they're just not moving, but you're able to add these things on there, which kind of leads me to my next thing. Guys, you got me out here, like, really taking forever, and I'm sorry, but I think it's good for you guys. It builds character. Okay, so the next thing that you want to make sure that you have is a graphic creation software. A graphic creation software. Now, when it comes to your graphic creation software, this can be, some video encoders have it within their system, and then others you may want to create custom broadcast graphics for your clients using, something like Adobe Suite, the Adobe Suite. So you're using Photoshop or After Effects and things like that to create some really high level custom broadcast graphics that will just really, be the difference between good to great. Like when it comes, we're going to do a whole episode on broadcast graphics, but you need to have something in place for building graphics, because one of the reasons why people are going to you, aside from the fact that they don't really want to be switching and being the host at the same time, is that they also are looking to create something that is stunning and visually compelling and, really awesome. So you have the opportunity to be able to do that for your clients by making sure that you have on hand a graphics creation software. So there's some really complex ones. Like I said, Adobe Photoshop, it's not really complex, but if you're not really a techie person, then maybe it is. But Photoshop and After Effects is just actually really more of a complicated software. But there's some other easy ones. I don't want to scare you guys. Like there's some other easy ones that you can use, like Canva. Canva, believe it or not, you can create broadcast graphics in Canva for your clients. And maybe we'll do a whole episode on how to create broadcast graphics in Canva. Would you guys like that? Would that be something that you would want to know about? In the comment section, let me know. So if I get enough yeses on that, then we'll make sure that becomes another episode for you guys, okay? So the graphic creation software is something that you can use either within the video encoder or you can use as a separate thing. So like for more advanced broadcasts, you may have multiple computers. Like we talked about having a live stream ready computer. You may need to have multiple computers depending on how advanced you're looking to go, so that you can offload your graphics onto another computer. I know I'm a nerd, you guys, and I'm so sorry, but I I hope I'm not like too over your head with all of this. But again, make sure that you to get the full download of the remote producer checklist, I'll be sharing that with you at the end. So just kind of stay plugged in where we are right now. So at least you'll have it in, writing, and you can kind of go through and choose some of those things that you need depending on what it is that you're trying to create, and just go buy it. You know what I mean? So we'll show you not only what we recommend, but what we use ourselves for you to be able to use and be able to learn from. Okay. It would be great to have an episode on graphics. Yeah, we're definitely doing an episode on graphics. I'm going to, we may do like a more customized advanced version, and then maybe do like a more easy drag and drop situation for you guys. It just depends on what that looks like. But graphics obviously do make a huge difference when it comes to the quality, the perceived value even of your live stream, right? Because when those graphics are popping and, it looks really professional, people are like, dang, this is like a really professional broadcast, right? So that's another reason why our clients go to us for producing their broadcasts, is because we specialize in that area. So it's one of our little secrets that really help us to produce something at a high level for the client. Okay. So let's talk about some other things that you need. We talked about broadcast graphics. We talked about, graphic software for creating those things, and internet connection. Obviously, if you are doing, you're going to need a remote producer webcam. You're going to need a remote producer camera. Now, your remote producer camera, again, guys, the reason why you probably were expecting this part of it at the very beginning. And the reason why you didn't get it is because when you're producing for other clients, you can actually do it completely not being seen. You really don't need your own camera. This is going to be another episode that we talk about with what the equipment that your client needs, or the equipment that you need to recommend for the client themselves, right? So that's a whole nother episode. And when we get into that, we'll get more into the whole cameras and microphones and things like that. But as a remote producer, you really don't need a whole lot. You're like the phantom behind the curtain, right? So you may not even be seen. So the camera that you have may not be all that important. However, I do want to stress that if you are doing a broadcast for a client where they are asking you to be the talent, obviously you're going to need a professional camera to do that with. So one of the things that I recommend for you guys is to have a high level camera. So the camera that we're using right now is a DSLR camera. You can also use a mirrorless camera. Mirrorless cameras are probably even better than a DSLR camera, and they have their own unique challenges, and we'll get into how to live stream with a DSLR, how to live stream with a mirrorless camera. But it just provides that TV level quality. So how you show up in your industry is how you're going to be perceived by that industry. So it's important that you show up in high quality, because when you show up in high quality, people expect a high quality result, right? And so it's important for you to be able to do that. Always show up in high quality. So the camera that we're using even right now is an older model of a T6i camera, right? You can also use the Canon M50, I think, is kind of a really good bang for your buck camera when it comes to both quality and price. And again, we'll go into all of that. But you can just know that you can use at the basic level. All you need is like a Logitech 920. This is just like a regular webcam that you can use that has really good clarity, HD clarity. So when you're jumping on the broadcast, you can just say, hey guys, welcome to the broadcast, and then kind of get them started, right? Or if you're doing your own broadcast for them, then you would use probably something at least like a mirrorless or a DSLR camera. That would be my recommendation, okay? You're gonna have to excuse my sinuses today. I'm so sorry. Like, the weather has me a little bit sinusy, so if I sound a little nasally, I apologize. Adele says, I'm a musician. So I'm actually going, as we go through these episodes further, we're actually going to be going through each kind of like business type of broadcast that you can create for, how to live stream for musicians, how to live stream for people who are selling jewelry, how to live stream for real estate agents, how to live stream for all of the different categories. And I think that'll be really helpful in you guys, because again, as we talk through, thank you, Adele. She says, I hope you feel better. Thank you. As we talk through what you're going to need in the way of equipment, like as I told you guys, it's going to vary a little bit depending on what it is that you're trying to accomplish for the client. So it's going to be important, I think, for us to kind of go through each different type of live stream. I think it'll be really cool if you guys kind of see behind the scenes of how we do it and some of the things that you're going to need to create something at a high level, and give you some ideas about how you can service different people in different industries for your broadcast, okay? So the next thing that you're going to need, so we talked about the camera. Obviously, one of the things that I think is important and understated in so many ways is your remote producer headphones, guys. You need headphones. And let me just explain the whole idea behind the headphones, okay? You need the headphones for a couple of different reasons. And as a remote producer, this is your communication. This is the way that you communicate with your clients. And it also is the way that they communicate with each other. So the way that we have our setup, we have like a in-ear producer. And what the in-ear producer is that somebody is on the broadcast with you while you're live. Let's just say you're the host and I'm here talking and I'm the host of this broadcast. I would have an earpiece in my ear where I can hear the producer live telling me, hey, Kimberly, we're about to move to a commercial here in about 2 minutes. Hey, Kimberly, we have the next guest on set. Let's go ahead and introduce her. Hey, Kimberly, Adele is in the comment section and she's commenting and she wants to know this question, or, just whatever. Brian has said this, like, so that I can focus as the host on being an amazing host for the production. Your job is to, kind of keep them on point with the content that they're looking to get out there in a timely manner, right? So we have in-ear producers who are able to do that. So let's talk about the technology around that. Headphones are super important because you want to create a situation where they can hear you, but the audience can't hear you, right? So obviously, like if I'm talking to my client while they're on the broadcast and they don't have headphones in, then my voice will pick up from their laptop and the audience will be able to hear me as ambient noise saying like, hey, like she's directing the broadcast, and the audience will be able to hear her. So it's important for you to have headphones in for that reason. Obviously, another reason is that a lot of these headphones have like additional mic pieces to give you just a little bit more clear audio if they don't already have an external mic or something like that. But it keeps the stability in place, meaning that it keeps you from having to deal with the issue of echo or like a reverby sound during the broadcast, because sometimes the audio picks up and it's loud enough to be heard as an ambient noise over the broadcast. This doesn't always happen. It depends on the levels that they have, their volume and all that kind of stuff. So sometimes people will be like, well, do I really need my headphones? And the answer is always going to be yes, 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 yes. You need your headphones, and the client also needs to have their headphones in to eliminate the possibility of these problems. Now, we have been in situations where the client didn't have their headphones and they had no way to get headphones before the broadcast was able to go live. And so we would do like a little test recording to see while we're talking, are we able to hear ourselves? And if we're not able to hear ourselves, then we continue on with the broadcast. Like, you have to be flexible in order to kind of do remote producing. So just knowing that, but at least if you know what the problem could be, you're able to help better troubleshoot for the client. Okay, so that's important. Okay, so like we've kind of gone into, oh my gosh, like so many things. But the other thing you want to make sure that you have is, of course, a remote producer microphone. A remote producer microphone. Now, again, this microphone could be as simple as your headphone microphones. So like the ones that you use, oops, sorry about that. The ones that you use for your, for a basic like live stream, or, you know, the iPhone earphones, like you can use little wired earbuds like this, or you can use as a microphone. Like, I know that you're hearing headphones and thinking, oh, you already talked about that. No, most headphones that are plugged into your, cell phone device also include a microphone in them. So, you know, as a remote producer, we have like just little headphones and it actually has like a little microphone attached to it where we're able to talk to the people live. You know what I mean? So like, just like you would see on any television station where you see the producer with the headphones and the little microphone piece there, I'm able to talk and hear the client that way. You may choose to use a different microphone. Yes, you can use an external microphone, and all of these different things can happen too. So I want to talk to you when we get into the whole musician thing. I really want to do like a one-on musician thing because it does require different variables. Like, obviously you have these basic fundamentals, but there's some other variables that you may need, like a soundboard and how to use a soundboard to really create something cool for concerts that you may be doing, or covers that they want to do live. Like, that's really cool options as well. So make sure that you have a microphone. Any basic microphone should work well. But if you're doing it live for the client, like you are the talent for for the client, then of course you want to make sure that you get a more professional microphone, maybe something like a USB microphone connected, even at a higher level, a connection that has, like an aux cord, not aux cord, like a jack, to where it's a jack connection into a soundboard that you can manipulate the sound and like, the reverb of it, the different like levels of it. Like, we'll get into all of that at a separate time, but just knowing that you need to have a microphone at the basic level, you need to have your headphone microphone. At the pro level, you're probably going to want a USB microphone, and at the advanced level, you may be using a microphone that is plugged directly into a soundboard that you are manipulating the sound for all different purposes. Okay. What kind of mic should I use? A USB mic that uses a mixer? Again, Matthew, that's going to depend on what kind of live streams are you producing for your clients. Okay, so like talk to me about that in the comment section, and I'll answer that question. It's like, again, so for basic broadcast, you can just use your headphones from an iPhone. On a more advanced broadcast, you're going to need something that is maybe like a USB mic. And if you're doing it even more advanced than that, where you need to manipulate the sound of your audio in different ways as far as reverb and all of those things are concerned, then you want to use a microphone connected to the mixer like you said, okay? All right, guys. So like, you guys are awesome, and you have been hanging with me for 45 minutes. I want to thank you guys so much for being on the broadcast. I did promise you something kind of cool, but before I do that, I want to talk about these like ninja pieces, right? So I'm calling them ninja pieces because one of the other things that I found super useful is to have a dual monitor setup, And the reason why that's important, again, it's going to depend on the type of broadcast or the level of broadcast you're looking to do. You may need to have multiple applications open, and you may need to have them viewed on different monitors in order for you to navigate throughout. So like a good case scenario for a situation like a dual monitor setup would be if you are using one monitor to bring in a guest via, your software encoder. Like, let's just say you have them on OBS or you have them on Skype or whatever. You have them coming in through Restream. So you have them on this monitor, and then on the other monitor you may have as a dedicated graphics computer where all the lower thirds and everything like that is being NDI'd into the overall broadcast. That may sound complicated, but we'll get into it, right? But you may need to have a separate graphics computer to where you have one monitor here where you're looking at the guests and everything that's going on, and then another monitor here where you're focused on the graphics. Like, that's going to be important because you're kind of doing a lot of multitasking when you have a lot of applications open. And the more applications open that you have, the more monitors that you really want. So for us, you at least need to have a dual monitor setup. You may actually, depending on how advanced you go, right, you may have multiple monitor setups. So just be open to what can happen as it pertains to your live streams. Okay. Brian says he uses 4 monitors. Yeah. And that's easily the case because you could have them, you may have the outline of the show happening on this monitor. You have the guests in this monitor. You have the full composition in this monitor, and you have the graphics in another. Like, it just depends on your flow and how easy you want to try to create a workflow that is easy for you to be able to monitor all things necessary for a brilliant high level production. Okay. And the other ninja move bonus thing is that I want to encourage you guys to do. There's 3 really, right? Is external storage device, an external storage device. Now, it's important to know that your storage, I keep doing that. When your storage device fills up, that's going to take processing power, right? So you don't want to try to have too many things on that one computer. And when you're producing for a lot of different companies, that storage unit is going to fill up super, super quick, especially depending on the file size that you are doing recordings from. So for our company, we go live for the client on these, different social media platforms, but we also create a recording for the client at that same time. So one of the cool things about having this option is that Restream actually allows you to do this in-house. So you're able to in-house have that recording. Like, while we're live right now, Restream is automatically recording. So that's a really cool option to have. But for you, depending on how you do your operating system, you may need to have additional recordings, like an isolated recording where it's just the recording and not the graphics and things like that, right? But your storage unit is going to fill up quickly. So at the pro version, at the basic version, you at least need to have 500 gigs on your computer internally, right? At the pro version, you want to have an external storage device, for your broadcast, where you're able to just kind of have all of that stuff listed, right? And then, of course, at the pro level, you want to think about doing a cloud storage option, a cloud storage option via, like, basically your own cloud storage server. And we'll talk about that. That could be a whole nother episode too. Like, what is a cloud storage server for remote producing? So we'll talk a little bit more about that as we kind of get into this stuff deeper. So I hope you guys have found today's information helpful. I do have one more other thing that I want you to focus on or think about. If you are using a computer right now that maybe doesn't have everything that you need to really get, a pro setup happening, I want you to consider an external GPU. An external GPU is an external graphics card that will allow you to, oh my goodness, I need some tissue. That will allow you the option to really outsource some of the power of your graphics card to a whole nother device. This will help save a lot of CPU usage that you see inside of your video encoder. So if you're doing broadcasts for clients right now and you're experiencing a high levels of CPU, my little ninja tip for you is to try to get a GPU, an external GPU, and maybe we'll have a whole nother episode about what kind of eGPU that you might need for your setup and workflow. Guys, did you find that helpful? If you found it helpful, in the comments section, say, Kimberly, I found this helpful. I'm really excited. And I am really excited to continue sharing episodes just like this one to really help you guys flow and become masterful at remote producing. If you want to get today's download of our full-on checklist, I know that we kind of tried to race through this and we really didn't have enough time to kind of get all through it. But if you want the copy of that, go to remoteproducerlive.com/show to get the full equipment checklist. Okay, so just when you subscribe to the show, you'll get that option to download the checklist. So go there, remoteproducerlive.com/show for the full remote producer equipment checklist. Okay, you guys? And if you're looking to just get started within the Restream process and you want to use Restream as your video encoder and your must-have, for starting out with some broadcasts that you want to do for clients, go to restream.io and to get started set up an account with Restream to start remote producing, get your feet wet, get it going, and be able to stream to multiple different platforms at once, get your recordings happening automatically within the stream. There's just a bunch that you can do with Restream, you guys. So make sure you check that out as well. I'm super excited. Thanks so much for your time, guys. In the comments section, if you guys have any other questions, I don't see any questions in here. So that's really all I have for you today. Make sure that you make it a great day, guys. Make sure that you stay plugged in to shows like this so that you can learn how to create a more masterful production for your live stream clients. Until next time, guys, I'll see you on the other side. Bye.